today's cup of coffee, we're going to be discussing the green children of Woolpit.
Woolpit.
And I thought this was one of these, that's where I go down rabbit holes. It's like I'll be looking at something and then something else is mentioned, and it's like, ooh, there we go.
Yeah.
And this first article is from a website called History of Yesterday, and the article was written by Alexander Young. And he was talking about that when this incident occurred, it was during the English Civil War of the 12th century. So apparently they've had several.
Apparently.
And it says that this rather peculiar situation took place there, of course, in England, and that Ralph of Coggeshall, a sixth abbot, described green children arriving in the village of Woolpit. And says decades later, the monk and historian William of Newburgh would also recount the same story. And historians, not hysterians, historians.
Hysterics.
Yeah, well,
they're in hysterics.
Would use these two reports to create the full narrative of the green children of Woolpit. And supposedly what happened was one day Woolpit's villagers saw two children, a boy and a girl, emerging from a wolf trapping pit. They had those things. I'm not exactly what a wolf trapping pit is.
I don't either, unless it's like one of those pits that you put leaves over and whatever for stuff to fall in.
Wolves used to be a thing.
They still are a thing.
Well, yeah, and it's like you've got some people over here that don't understand that. Anyhow, these children had green skin, spoke in an unknown language, and were dressed in strange clothing. Both children, who were later discovered to be siblings, were taken to the home of Sir Richard de Calne, about 6 miles away from Woolpit. In their first several days there, the children refused to eat anything but beans. Over time, they got used to different foods, and the green skin color faded back to a normal coloring. Sadly, the boy would become ill and die, but the sister survived. She eventually learned English and explained where she came from. According to her, she came from a land called St. Martin's Land, where the sun never shone. She and her brother were looking after their father's flock when they suddenly heard a strange noise, which caused them to enter a cave. When they crossed to the other side of this cave, the siblings arrived in Woolpit, where they encountered the reapers that discovered them. And Richard de Calne named the girl Agnes, and she worked for him for years before marrying the Archdeacon of Ely, Richard Bear. According to one report, the couple produced one child. And the question remains, is this a folk tale or was it actually part of real history? And throughout the years, there have been numerous theories attempting to explain the children's origins. And theory number one is chlorosis.
No, I've heard of the people with the blue skin, but not green skin.
The chlorosis, it says that can come from hypochromatic anemia. That's what it's also called. And the condition is caused by a poor diet, which turns a person's skin green. However, after eating a normal amount of food, and variety of foods, I'm sure, the skin returns to normal. Then the second theory is arsenic poisoning. This theory states that the children had arsenic poisoning, and because of this, their caretaker left them to die near the Norfolk-Suffolk border. And I didn't know that arsenic poisoning would turn you green. I mean, I knew that.
I didn't know that either.
That was the whole thing about the Mad Hatters, was because that they dealt with arsenic.
Yeah, and why people became, like in the Victorian era, why they became sick, because all the green dyes that they were using
was arsenic,
like the wallpapers, their clothing.
Don't eat the green on the potatoes, that's arsenic.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit won't hurt you, but a little, you know.
Don't make it a diet.
No, don't make a diet of it. But anyhow, so theory number three, Flemish immigrants. It says during the 12th century, many Flemish immigrants arrived in England after being persecuted by King Henry II. And it says the siblings could have been children of these immigrants who had been killed in the Battle of Fornham in 1173. And St. Martin is a nearby village to Fornham. So it's possible the children were orphans, entered an underground mine passage in the area, and eventually arrived at Woolpit. However, it seems unlikely that Richard Decane, an educated person, wouldn't recognize Flemish if the children spoke it.
Yeah.
And in theory number 4, that these kids were extraterrestrials. And Robert Burton, the English scholar for the Anatomy of Melancholy, hypothesized the green children fell from heaven in 1621. And this idea would continue to gain popularity in Francis Godwin's speculative fiction, The Man in the Moon. So, Wikipedia actually gave no skeptics on this, or at least I skipped the skeptics. So they actually gave a little more detail on some of these things. Not only did the children speak in an unknown language, but they would eat only raw broad beans. So it wasn't any bean.
Broad beans.
Raw broad beans.
Okay.
I don't know.
Never heard of them.
Well, I don't know exactly. I don't know. But don't eat too many of them. Have a balanced diet.
Especially of raw.
Or you'll turn green.
Raw. Especially raw.
This was interesting because they said that, of course, the girl, as she got older and as she adjusted to her new life, she was considered to be rather loose and wanton in her conduct. Now, that may have had a very different meaning then than what it has today.
Yeah.
And they said that she, after she learned to speak English, that the girl had explained that St. Martin's Land was a subterranean world inhabited by green people.
Okay.
So, I don't know, I thought beans needed sun to grow.
I thought they did too, but I guess not.
Maybe not. And it says here that 2 approaches have dominated explanations of the story of the green children. And one that is a folk tale describing an imaginary encounter with the inhabitants of another world, perhaps subterranean or even extraterrestrial, or it presents a real event in a garbled manner. And within that, as far as the 2 approaches of explanations, the first is that the narrative descends from folklore describing an imaginary encounter with the inhabitants of a fairy otherworld. And in a few early as well as modern readings, this otherworld is extraterrestrial and the green children are alien beings. And then the second is that it is a garbled account of the real event, although it is impossible to be certain whether the story as recorded is an authentic report given by the children or if it had adult invention in it.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what to make of this story.
Well, I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, you know, when you suddenly have green children emerge from a cave, that would make you wonder.
Yeah.
And especially if they could not speak the language.
I don't think that they were aliens at all. I think that they sort of spoke their own made-up language in a way. And I think the green skin was because of, improper nutrition.
Well, the green skin very well could have been because of improper nutrition. But the children, because that they were younger, it's highly unlikely that they would have survived on their own long enough to develop their own form of language.
Yeah.
That's usually for people that have been many, many years. Mm-hmm. And kids especially that have not been exposed to whatever language that their people spoke. So I'm sort of discrediting that part of your theory.
I mean, think the blue people, like not the blue men group, but there's actually like people.
I love the blue men group.
There were people that were actually that their skin was blue, and it was due to some sort of deficiency.
Well, it was a hereditary condition. I know what you're talking about, and we might explore that at some other point. And they were different than the gentleman who turned blue from an overconsumption of colloidal silver.
Yeah. I'm not talking about him.
Right. Papa Smurf knows. And I think he was drinking like gallons of that stuff a day. And it's like, no, a dropper full is what you're supposed to do.
I think that's hilarious. That
Well, yeah.
he turned blue.
Wonder if it had any health benefits other than him turning blue.
You know, that's a good question. I don't know.
But the other group of blue people, it was a congenital disorder, and as they intermarried with other people, that of course you have to, or it'd have been all inbred and they would have died, they'd have been blue and horribly malformed.
Yeah, right.
But that the trait lessened, which you can understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it makes you wonder, it's like why there was that one group, how many was in that one group. I don't know. I need to research that further, but I do know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
But in one of the articles I read, it was talking about that the kid's skin was bright green. And it's like, I mean, green, we're not talking...
people's skin turns green when they're exposed to something that just completely grosses them out.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It was not a seasick green. These kids were green. I don't know if it was an emerald green or a chartreuse green or an olive green.
If
I don't
only
know.
they had pictures of the kids.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
But in the 1100s, yeah, no.
Nope. I feel like that's folklore too, but I don't know. There's always a bit of truth in folklore.
Absolutely. I think so. I think that there was something. Now, there's a lot of people that theorize that there are subterranean lands.
Oh, I believe that. I think it would be interesting to see, but I don't know.
I don't know. I've heard people say that in the center of the planet or whatever, that it had its own sun. It was a whole thing. And that those of us that are on the crust were cast out somehow.
All right, but yet we're here vibing.
Well, we kind of sort of vibe, and these people messing with our vibe right now, but...
Yeah, but for the most part, we're actually doing good up here.
Well, yeah. When people leave us alone, we're doing all right. But anyhow, it looks like if there was this subterranean world, that at this point, something somewhere would have discovered it.
At this point, we would have found out about it. It would not have gone unnoticed by now.
But by the same right, we really don't know. There's hypotheses and theories of the core of the Earth.
Yeah.
But no one truly knows.
Right. No one truly knows at all, but...
So, who knows? But have a well-balanced diet.
Yeah, have a well-balanced diet. Also, that Silent Hill sound, that was Dad calling. He always calls at the...
Yeah, but I always tell you to turn your phone off before we start recording.
I thought I did.
It's okay. It's okay.
At least it was at the end.
True. If you've had experiences with the supernatural or paranormal, encounters with UFOs, aliens, cryptids, green peoples, blue peoples, chartreuse peoples,
pink peoples,
if you've got local, regional, or family myths or legends, anything like that, if you've got something strange and interesting, send that to us at cupofcoffeewithscream @gmail.com. And the email address is always in the description box. So yeah, just go about and ponder the green peoples these days.
Do you think my brother would be considered a clear people?
Your brother, if it were not
He's translucent, basically.
If it were not for the black hair and blue eyes, he would have made an awesome albino.
Yeah.
Truly.
Of course, when he gets out in the sun, he just turns into a lobster. He really does.
Oh, no, he can't deal with sun exposure, basically, at all. He blisters.
Yeah.
There's a condition for that, but I don't remember the name of it. That there are some people that honestly are allergic to the sun. It's weird.
Yeah.
That's one thing I'm not allergic to, and I'm grateful for that.
Me too.
So, anyhow, You all have a beautiful, blessed day.
Yeah.
Bye.
Green people.